Let me ask you this. What if your neighbor served 20 years in a secret space war and doesn't remember a single second of it? What if time as we experience it is not a straight line, but a tool, something that can be bent, folded, or even erased? What if Earth is the only place in the galaxy where your life can start over, again and again, without your knowledge? This is part 3 of our deep dive into the secret space program, and today we're venturing into the most bizarre corridor yet, the strange machinery of time, memory, and the so-called 20 and back program. Fair warning, this episode sounds less like history and more like a Christopher Nolan film directed by Philip K. Dick under the guidance of Carl Jung. And by the way, remember, we're dealing with testimonies from alleged insiders, veterans, whistleblowers, and researchers who swear that this is the reality behind our simulated curtain. Okay, these are not my ideas. These are researched ideas, so please, I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot me. All right. The 20 and back program, was it a sci-fi fantasy or forgotten fact? The basic premise is this. At around the age of 16 to 18, certain individuals are recruited, sometimes willingly, sometimes via MyLab programs. That means they were abducted by the military. And they are sent to serve 20 years in the secret space program, often on other planets, moons, or craft patrolling the solar system. And at the end of that service, they are then age regressed, memory wiped, and returned to Earth at the exact moment that they left, or shortly after. And to the outside world, it's as if they never left in the first place. No time has passed. No one suspects a thing, except sometimes these people remember. That's where age regression and temporal reassignment come in, according to sources like Tony Rodriguez, Randy Kramer, and Michael Relf. This isn't science fiction. It's protocol. And here's how it supposedly works. After the 20-year tour ends, operatives are placed into regression chambers where things like pharmaceuticals, temporal faxing, and even consciousness backup tech are used to restore them to their physical state at the time of departure. The body is reset, the mind is blanked, and sometimes a clone is used. Sometimes it's the original body, just de-aged. I've been de-aged 20 years, and that's why I'm 70 years old, actually. Just kidding. But think that's insane. Well, the U.S. Patent Office has documented research into age regression, consciousness transfer, and neural memory erasure as early as the 1970s. And most of that was classified. And that was 50 years ago. Do you think they made any progress in that time? Speaking of time, this is the perfect time to introduce the sponsor of today's video, Mystic.io. Time isn't what you think it is. Let's pause here. If you're skeptical, that's good. You should be. Because this doesn't just bend the laws of biology. It challenges our very concept of time. What I'm talking about is ideas like physicist Dr. David Deutsch from Oxford and thinkers like Tom Campbell, who worked at NASA, have argued that time is not linear. In fact, it's nonlinear, it's branching, and it's even programmable, especially in a simulated reality, which you know we're in. And if we're inside a system, call it the simulation, the matrix, or the divine code, whatever you want, then time might be more like software than space-time. You don't travel through it, you travel across it. And if you have access to the code, you can edit it. In this context, the 20 and back sounds less like sci-fi and more like a spiritual test drive. So, what did these people do for 20 years? What happens during those last decades? Well, accounts vary, but most break down into a few categories. You have military security missions, they guard bases on the moon or Mars, they might patrol space near Earth for incoming threats, there could be engagement in off-world skirmishes with non-human factions, sounds exciting, scientific or diplomatic assignments, you could be working with ET species to exchange technology, you could be translating psychic languages without the help of Google, and participating in genetic or energetic hybrid programs. It's like college, you got a menu of different courses you could take. But SSP insiders claim there's a galactic economy and Earth is a supplier of biological materials, minerals, and, of course, labor. Well, we know that. We know that the Anunnaki came here many, many moons ago, if there was a moon, so that we could be slaves for their gold. Anyway, that's another story. Mars bases and lunar command centers. I mean, there are multiple insiders that describe structures on the moon and Mars, some built by humans, others by ancient aliens, and the Lunar Operations Command LLC is said to be a Nazi origin base repurposed for SSP coordination. It supposedly sits on the dark side of the moon, shielded from public telescopes. Mars reportedly houses the Mars Defense Force, where humans serve alongside cybernetic soldiers and genetic hybrids. I know, sounds a lot like sci-fi. Entry and exit are said to use portal technology or the TR-3B anti-gravity craft. And this overlaps disturbingly with the Chronicles of Mars research by Dr. Michael Salla, who I've mentioned in previous videos, where he details how whistleblowers from NASA and intelligence services claim a breakaway colony exists on the red planet. Now we have time loops, parallel selves, and memory bleed. Now here's where it turns surreal, if it hasn't been surreal already. Some who claim to have been in the 20 and back programs begin recovering memories years or decades later. Through trauma, hypnosis, or even spontaneous flashbacks, they recall such things as battles on Mars, meetings with ETs, life aboard massive star cruisers, and a profound sense that something was stolen from them. But what if some versions of these individuals are still out there? What if we're not dealing with a single timeline, but branching ones? And this aligns with the multiverse model in quantum mechanics, because each decision spawns a new probability thread, and you could be home mowing your lawn while your other self is battling insectoid warlords on Ganymede. That's a moon somewhere. In this view, the 20 and back is less of a memory wipe and more of a timeline remerging. The cost of silence. So if this happens to a number of people, why don't they speak out about it? Well, according to insiders, operatives are forced to sign interdimensional NDAs, consciousness level contracts that are reinforced by psychic technology is what they are. And MK Ultra style trauma ensures mental fragmentation, making memory retrieval merely impossible. So if someone starts to remember, they're targeted for psycho-spiritual destabilization, depression, isolation, and even psychotronic attacks. Doesn't sound fun. But the veil is thinning. People are remembering, and the puzzle pieces are starting to come together. Now we have pop culture parallels. Think of shows like Westworld, Altered Carbon, Black Mirror, or even my favorite, The Matrix. Themes of memory erasure, identity control, synthetic timelines, off-world slavery, and emotional farming. I have to throw Total Recall in there too. But are these merely fiction, or are they the breadcrumbs left by insiders in disguise? You know, Hollywood has a long history of predictive programming, and it's possible the truth is being leaked through story, and I do believe it is. Now let me leave you with a word of caution. Let's be perfectly clear here. We don't have ironclad proof. What we have is testimony, patterns, leaked documents, and uncanny synchronicities. But no court admissible evidence, nothing you can use with a jury and a judge and a lawyer. Still, I want you to ask yourself, why are the same motifs showing up across decades, across continents, from people who've never even met? Is this collective psychosis a new form of archetypal dreaming? Or are the memories real? Now here's where we come to the simulation twist. If we take Tom Campbell's MBT model or Liz Cross's remote viewing sessions, we're not in base reality. We're in a data stream, and our avatars are guided by consciousness elsewhere. In this model, time travel is not only possible, it's natural. You simply tune the consciousness stream to a different coordinate, and bam, you're in a different reality. So the 20 and back becomes an instant reset. You serve, you are reset. The simulation resumes. But your soul remembers, because consciousness is the only thing that's fundamental. And when enough souls start remembering, that's when the system breaks. So here are my final thoughts. The idea that humans are being drafted into what you would call interplanetary programs, serving in silent wars, and then returned home memory wiped, It's almost too much to believe. I met Tony Rodriguez, I heard his story in person, and I read his book. If true, if this is true, and I think anything's possible in our universe, it means our concept of identity, history, and even self is dangerously incomplete. And that's the scariest part. Not that the universe is filled with aliens, or UFO, or UAP, or demons, but that you may already be one of its soldiers and simply forgot. I want you to stay tuned for part 4, where we explore the final layer, consciousness, disclosure, and the simulation war. You're gonna love it. Because what's coming next isn't just about space, it's about spirit. And the battle isn't out there, my friends, it's in here. So if you want to continue the battle on Open Your Reality, I urge you to watch this video. Fight it out, win the battle, clean out the war, and come home to roost. Because I told you so.